So I'm going to call this meeting of the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability to order. We're going to start off with a roll call. So when I say your name, please unmute and say here or some other indication that you are present.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Anna?
Here.
Alrighty. Jarrett is here. Christina?
Here.
Cool. Teresa? Teresa? Alrighty. Matt?
Here.
Cool. Alicia?
Here.
Awesome. Nolan? Nolan? Alrighty. Jonna?
Here.
Cool. Colin?
Here.
Awesome. Andrew? Alrighty. Najla? Najla? Alrighty. And Joseph?
Here.
Awesome. So then next we will go to an approval of the agenda. So if anyone has anything to say about the agenda, actually, I was going to say that since Councilmember Flaherty has to leave after 30 minutes, it might be useful if we moved the report from council up to number 4 and then pushed everything else subsequently down 1.
We amend the agenda in line with what the chair just outlined.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Alrighty, and any objections? Alrighty, so we will adopt. Oh, Joe?
I don't have an objection, but before adopting an amendment, I do want to propose another that perhaps point number 8, as it is listed as number 8 now, new business for the presentation. I think would perhaps warrant a different title since new business.
Joe, I think you got muted.
I'm sorry, yes, thank you. I was just mentioning that I think point number 8, new business for the presentation, should have a non-new business title, since new business already follows old business as point 11, and perhaps should be given a presentation title.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Awesome.
And to clarify, I mean, this is a bit out of order, but I think it's okay because it's fairly low stakes things. I take it we're combining those two motions into one. As long as that's okay with everybody, I think we're all cool.
Yes, and I would second a combined motion for those two amendments to the agenda.
Alrighty, cool. And then just because it is an amendment to the agenda, we'll just go through and do roll call vote for that. Anna? Anna?
Sorry, I said yes. I'm not sure if
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Cool, thank you. Yeah. And then Jarrett votes yes. Christina?
Yes.
Awesome. Matt?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yep.
Awesome. Jonna?
Yes.
Cool. Colin?
Yes.
And Joseph?
Yes.
Awesome. So the joint motion is adopted unanimously. And then we would need another vote then on the approval of the agenda, the new agenda. If anyone has any guidance there. Or was that the vote for that?
I move to approve the new agenda.
Do I hear a second? Oh.
Yeah,
Ready?
second.
Alrighty, any objections? Alrighty, then we'll go through again. This is voting to approve the agenda with those two amendments that we just adopted. Anna?
Yes.
Cool. Jarrett votes yes. Christina?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yep.
Jonna?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Awesome. So the agenda is approved. So the next up will be our report from council. So Councilmember Flaherty.
Yes, thank you. And sorry, I have to step away early tonight for another meeting. As Jarrett mentioned, I'll be stepping off around 6:30. And yeah, not too much on the council end. I think, as some of you know, we've been on recess since mid-June. We're coming back with our first regular session on next Wednesday, July 21st. I believe we have one BCOS vacancy at the moment. Wanted to update that the council committee tasked with interviewing folks is conducting some interviews tomorrow morning or midday, I guess. So we should hopefully have someone to recommend for appointment at our first regular session back and have that member join us by the next meeting of BCOS. A couple other things going on at the council that are relevant to sustainability and BCOS's mission. We are bringing a number of council members are co-sponsoring a resolution for introduction at this and potential final vote at this next Wednesday meeting in support of the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, or the PRO Act, which is a bill that was adopted in the U.S. House of Representatives earlier this year, and the Senate has not yet taken that up. And it just provides a kind of a wide variety of worker protections and tries to address some of the shortcomings of right to work laws and others like Indiana has. So I won't get too much into details there, but the Southern Indiana Area Labor Federation and also the Democratic Socialists of America Bloomington chapter had reached out to some council members asking for us to voice our support and asking our Indiana senators to consider supporting the legislation. I'd also like to talk to the Chamber of Commerce and the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation either today or tomorrow. I was going to send an email asking if they would be interested in publicly supporting the legislation as well in the interests of economic and social sustainability in our community. Also, I believe on the 21st, we may be seeing, or maybe it's the following meeting, sometime soon, we are seeing an appropriation ordinance brought by the mayoral administration for an initial allocation for 2021 for ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. I think I've been over this before, but we have a little over $22 million coming the city's way to be spent within the next 3 years, with covering a variety of categories that Congress deemed fit for recovery from the pandemic. And I believe a few details are still being worked out, but I believe this first appropriation ordinance will be largely focused on housing and housing insecurity needs in the community, as well as there was a small amount for something else that I saw, but I forget it offhand. But yeah, so keep an eye on that. That's coming up soon. And then other major things for the council are kind of upcoming budget discussions through August through October, as well as annexation considerations this fall, with the first public meeting of council on that subject being August 4th. I believe starting at 3 p.m. To hear public comment. So I think that's mostly it on the council end. I'd also be happy to answer any questions if folks had them about any of those topics or anything else.
Alrighty. Thank you, Matt. Does anyone
welcome back, Lauren. Sorry.
Thanks, Matt.
Does anyone have any questions for Councilmember Flaherty? Seeing none, we will move. Oh, Lauren?
I was just a point of clarification. If you haven't heard of the American Rescue Plan, Matt will buy that kind of quickly, but it is an appropriation to help the community try to recover from the pandemic. So a lot of the funds are expressly supposed to be allocated towards economic recovery and also the social impacts of COVID-19 on the community. So if you do see the appropriation ordinance, there's specific designated categories. I think one of them that also might be of interest to the commission is potential funding for lead pipe replacement, which has obviously social and economic sustainability implications there as well.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. That was the one that was escaping my mind when I mentioned.
Alrighty, Colin, you have a question?
I just wanted to say thank you, Councilmember Flaherty, for pitching the PRO Act resolution. I was one of the main authors on that. So it's really exciting to see the council or some council members coalescing to support that.
Yeah, of course. I think we're all broadly supportive. It's just sometimes our plates get a lot on them, and it's a little hard to always follow up on everything as quickly as folks would like. But I'm glad we're bringing that forward. And like I said, hope it can stimulate some community conversation with local economic leaders around what we can do locally to support workers' rights and equity in our community as well.
Awesome. Anything else? Anna put a note in the chat. The PRO Act, is that what you're asking about, Anna? So, yeah.
Protecting the right to organize. There we go.
Alrighty. So if no one else has any questions or comments, we will then move into public comment. If any members of the public are on the call and would like to have the floor, please use the raise hand function and I will call on you. If there are none, then we will move into the next, which is report from chair. I don't have much to report. Although since our last meeting, Samantha has resigned from the commission. So I believe there are actually 2 vacancies, one mayoral and one council. So there are 2 vacancies. So if you, and Matt said that the council is currently working through people. So if you know somebody who wants to apply to BCOS, maybe have them explore the mayoral route, which I believe is where Samantha was. I think Miss Samantha was a mayoral appointee. And that's all I have. So then we will move on to the report from ECSD. Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for holding the meeting last month while I was gone on my honeymoon. We'll focus more on just meeting logistics for next month because that will be a shift. And then the presentation about the Green Home Improvement Program is one that I'm excited to share for you. Thank you, Anna. So for next month, we will be transitioning into hybrid. I know that this month, or rather in June, you had passed the resolution to be able to continue to hold meetings in the hybrid mode. What that will mean for all of you is that be expected to let Jarrett know if you'll be attending the meeting virtually or in person. We will be setting up a conference room. It will probably be McCloskey in City Hall, which was the one that we were using prior to the pandemic beginning. I know that some of you haven't had the opportunity to meet in person, so that will be a change. We'll also have cats there as they are on the Zoom call to be able to broadcast via local networks. And then we will have enough cameras and other audio equipment so that it can pick up the voices of us around the table. So IT has been setting that up so that if you're in the room or you're participating on Zoom, it's all sort of an integrated system. If any of that makes you uncomfortable or you have any more questions, feel free to contact me before August meeting and we'll work through it. Anything else? I think Matt did a great job talking about that we're in budget season. Next month, August, will be when the departments present their budgets to council for approval. So that will be something to keep track of. And then I will reserve the rest of my time for the presentation. Let's see, anything else in the chat? Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Joseph.
Yeah, just related to the hybrid meetings, I believe according to the updated Indiana State Code, we'll still need to maintain a 50% in-person quorum. And I was wondering if the commission had a plan for anticipating making that quorum rather than just accepting voluntary remote versus in-person attendance to ensure that the minimum is always met before permitting or accepting remote attendance as much as possible.
I know that. Oh.
Sorry, I would say that if you're not able to participate in person, to give us as much advance notice as possible, since there's not, I mean, 50% of you would be at least 6 people in person. So I don't know, Jared, if you had any other thoughts.
Yeah, so I know at the last meeting, we did talk a little bit about, we did a preliminary at the end of this meeting, just, having people voice whether, they would be out of town or something and would need to do the video. And then also what I was thinking too is, the few days prior when we send out the email about if anyone wants to add anything, we can always, that can be kind of a final call and people have to give kind of their definitive. Well, I mean, obviously, if something comes up, it's not like we're holding you to it or anything, but kind of like what you're thinking a few days prior. That way we have a sense of whether we're going to hit that or whether we need, some people who could come in person, but maybe wouldn't prefer that. That way I can reach out to them and say, we really, really need you to come. That kind of thing.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, that answers the question. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for Lauren? Lauren, did you have anything else?
If there weren't any other questions about meeting logistics, I was going to move into the PowerPoint. So just let me know. I don't see anyone else's hand up, so I'll pull that up quickly. All right, so I just wanted to let you guys know about a new program that we'll be launching. It's not live yet, but hoping the press release will go out this month or this week rather. Definitely will be active by the August meeting. So this is the same presentation that I gave to the Historic Preservation Commission. So there's some information relevant to that, but it's a new program administered by our department, myself and my colleague Kaisa, and we're calling it the Bloomington Green Home Improvement Program. And the intent is to provide additional options for financing green home improvements, as well as rebates to incentivize participation. And I'll go through the program partners and a little bit about what's involved. And then at the end, we can talk more about how this affects you all and any questions that you might have. So what it is, this is funded through Recover Forward funding, which was an initiative starting last year related to recovering from the pandemic. So this is predominantly funded through reversion funds, funding that wasn't used in a previous budget cycle. Our partners are Clean Energy Credit Union, which is a federally insured credit union based out of Colorado, and I'll talk more about what they do in a minute. And then CDFI Friendly Bloomington, and CDFI is a community development financing institution, and it's basically a setup to help bring financing to Bloomington for projects that have a social benefit. And this is a 2021 program. It will be continued depending on future funding. And the idea is to provide different means of financial support to homeowners in Bloomington to make energy efficiency upgrades. Our program goals are really to help reduce utility cost burden, since the cost of electricity has been increasing, reduce overall environmental impacts, and then reduce financial barriers for Bloomington homeowners to make green home improvements. And like I mentioned, we're partnering with the credit union, and the reason for that is because they offer loans for these types of things. So, and if you're working with banks, typically they'll take a lien out on your house in order to ensure that if you don't repay the loan for solar, for instance, that they can recoup their money. By working with this credit union, they take the collateral on the actual equipment for solar, which means that you don't have to then have the lien on your house. It's nationally recognized. Some of our solar installers have worked through them to help people get financing in the past, but their mission is to really just increase access to clean energy technology. There's a couple of other counties and states that are working on a program with them as well. So there's some precedent to this. And our other partner, CDFI Friendly Bloomington, they're basically serving as our intermediate between the bank and has helped us find this lending option in order to promote community development here in Bloomington. As to what's eligible, I mentioned solar, and that's definitely one of the higher cost projects since a typical home, depending on the installation size, it can sometimes cost, between like 15 and 20,000. For most people, that's challenging to finance either in cash or to consider getting a lien on your house for that amount. So option here is to get a loan term and pay it off over time. There's also option to look into getting geothermal heat pumps. Let's say that you already have a solar system on your home and you're looking for a next step. That's another thing that you can finance through this program. And then other things that we know have an impact on your electric usage, HVAC replacement. If you have an old water heater, you can get that replaced, lighting, appliances. And then one that's really important actually is maybe you don't know why your home is inefficient. You can finance getting energy audit to your home, or also go through the utility. They do offer some free services, and then electric vehicle chargers as well. So we did not put electric vehicles themselves as a component of this program, but the charging infrastructure itself can be expensive as well. And so what's behind this is that the city worked directly with a credit union to subsidize a reduction in interest rate. So we actually are able to offer through this program an interest rate on your loan that's 0.5% down from the listed rate. So that makes the cost of the loan more affordable to the borrower over time. And instead of each borrower needing to go to the bank and just use basically whatever's offered, that allows you to pay lower interest over the course of the loan. And like I mentioned, it's not a home equity loan, which is the selling point. And then the other thing is that we were wanting to make this more equitable. So while anyone can participate, regardless of income, if your household income is under 100,000 and you complete a project that through lending that's either between minimum is 3,000, then if you submit proof that you've completed that project and we know that you worked through our program, then we'll be able to offer a $1,000 rebate. So something that's on the horizon in the next year is for solar. Net metering is running out next July. So we're really trying to increase the participation and number of people that are doing these types of improvements so that they can get the best return on their investment here. Participation eligibility, home must be owner occupied. We're hoping in sort of future iterations to be able to work directly with either landlords or renters, but for the time being, if you own the home, we expect you to be the applicant so we know that you have permission to make changes. And then for the rebate, you have to submit verification that you're under 100,000. That covers, I wouldn't say the majority of folks in Bloomington, but quite a few. So if we look at solar installations, we're looking to target more medium and lower income folks that perhaps have not been served through participation in past offers. And then just show that you have loan verification. We do have a minimum credit score just because it is a loan, and to just verify that you will have the means to pay it back. We don't want to get anyone into a trap where they're taking out a loan that's beyond what they're able to afford at this point in time. Other benefits of participating, Duke's rates keep increasing over time. So we're hoping that if we lower the structural inefficiencies of these types of homes, then you are able to enjoy a lower energy bill. And just keeping in mind with the solar installation, the federal tax credit was extended. So there's still a 26% credit. You add the $1,000 rebate to that and the net metering rate, it's a particularly good time in the next 12 months to consider installing. Anyone that's participating in the Solarized Group Buy can sort of add this on as a financing option. It's really just to be able to afford solar by participating through this. And then just the process so that you're aware, we'll have an initial intake form. This is when we can also tell if someone lives in a historic district, and in that case, they will have to have a little bit of an additional form just to ensure it's in compliance with standards in their district, get eligibility confirmation. And then at that point, you'll work with the bank to complete your application. And then the home updates you choose to do are up to you. So as long as it's on our eligible list, you can finance any of those. And that's really because every home has its own unique needs, and we're trying to be as flexible as possible. And then to get that rebate verification, you'll send it to the city and then get your federal tax credit. So we are offering this year. It will extend into next year, but we're hoping to get this started next month. And then this is just in relation to the Preservation Committee. We have quite a few historic districts so for our homes that are within those districts, there's extra information and they'll just have to file a certificate of appropriateness. We presented to them last week to let them know that this is coming up, the types of projects and the potential increase in applications for solar in those districts. And then this is program staff, myself, and then my colleague Kaisa. So I appreciate the opportunity to let you guys know about this. I'm excited. It's kind of a counterpoint for the nonprofit program that we've been running on solar and energy efficiency in response to our knowledge that a lot of the emissions in Bloomington come from the built environment, and the majority of Bloomington is already, built up. And so for new construction, while we have voluntary participation in sustainability programs, we're really looking to increase the efficiency of existing structures with program offerings. So I think there was one perhaps question in the chat. Let me see. Oh, Matt leaving. Okay. I will stop sharing. So I guess just to add to past conversations about helping homeowners become more sustainable, we're hoping to present to other homeowners associations. If this is something that interests you, we'll have a push on outreach. And if you live in a neighborhood or if you know folks that would be interested, feel free to push them our way. So any questions that I can answer for you all at this point in time?
Alrighty, so seeing no questions for Lauren. Thank you for the presentation, by the way.
Yeah,
it's very
of course.
informative. Oh, something. Oh, okay, cool. Then we will move into old business. And first up is the racial equity discussion. Colin, you asked for this to be on the agenda. So if you want to start off, if you have something to say, or if you want to just it to be general, just let me know.
Great, thank you, Jared. Yeah, so I think 1 or 2 meetings ago, I proposed that we consider having someone who helped to put together the City of Oakland, California's Racial Equity Impact Assessment and Implementation Guide, or RIA, which is a sort of equity component and report that's attached to their Equitable Climate Action Plan, the 2030 plan. I propose that we have, or that we consider having one or more of the folks who put that together, the consultants, to come present to us their best practices as to the report, which is about 90 pages. So it's a massive report, and which the Oakland City Council did actually ratify in a binding way in their resolution to approve their climate action plan. So the City of Oakland has bound itself essentially to implementing this RIA, which I think is really cool. And so I was just curious to maybe have them come and like talk about, their impact assessment, their report, and maybe, share some best practices with us. And perhaps, we could explore if to the extent to which and maybe where we could employ some of these best practices in helping to implement Bloomington's climate action plan, because I believe this is responsible for helping to implement it, if I'm not mistaken. So I can summarize really quick the key recommendations from the RIA if folks would like, or we can just jump into our discussion. Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and summarize them. There are a few key recommendations. One is to identify the frontline communities and compiling existing quantitative and qualitative data to kind of point to the systemic root causes of the climate vulnerabilities and outcomes in the city. The second recommendation is to utilize GIS mapping to increase data visualization and accessibility. I think when it comes to kind of understanding those vulnerabilities. The third recommendation is to map equitable outcomes. So that's really probably the key recommendation of the RIA. The idea of it is we want to do, our due diligence, that is the City of Oakland wants to do its due diligence, right? In ensuring that frontline communities have the maximal outcome, the maximal benefits from the climate action plan. The fourth recommendation is to set aside resources to monitor and evaluate outcomes. And the last one is to increase and streamline communication between city departments working on equitable climate action plan implementation. And then, but then of course it's again a 90-page report, so it's massive. Yeah, I guess any questions? If not, we can just jump into discussion.
I think that's a great idea. I think it also might be nice to set up other speakers or members of the community to come present to because after their presentation, they might be able to gain a perspective on what we're missing in the climate action plan. Obviously, it's challenging to get everyone's perspective during a pandemic, but to see how that's shifted in terms of implementation of the CAP, and it could help getting momentum after the speakers come and ensuring that there's follow-up on some of the recommendations.
Agreed. That sounds like a great idea. Jarrett?
Yeah, kind of going off of that, I know a little bit at the last meeting we discussed, the audience and like what type of event this would be, whether we wanted to just limit it to a BCOS meeting or try to plan like a more community focused where, city council members, potentially people from, the administration, other commissions that would be, dealing with the climate action plan could attend as well. And obviously they can attend our BCOS meetings, but maybe something where it's more open. And I was just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. I think ESD Director Crowley, is it Crowley? Forgive me.
Yeah,
last name Crowley. Okay, thank you. Had expressed interest in that particular idea, that is in expanding the audience to different city departments. And I think that's a wonderful idea and would probably make the presentation more effective.
Joseph.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say that this seems like a better fit presentation to me for a larger audience, more so than even directly for the BCOS, because the BCOS, has a limited scope of activity and engagement. It seems like it would be members of the city and community at large that would benefit the most from learning the most about this.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Are there any ways that our department can support you? I mean, aside from obviously we can find a venue and live stream, but happy to work with you directly and trying to ensure that the word gets out. Perhaps we can make a flyer, for instance.
Yeah, that would be great, Lauren. I think if we wanted to put together a flyer for it and just collaborate on like identifying the forum, that would be excellent.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, do we need to vote on this as a commission? I guess I'm curious about how to proceed. Like, do I need to make a motion or?
We would just have to make a public meeting announcement if there was a quorum of members present. So if we decide on a date, then I would have to post public notice. But aside from that, it's not a resolution or.
Joseph.
Yeah, actually, to follow up on my previous remark, that kind of brings up the question for you, Colin. Is there, or I guess, what role in particular would you like the Bee Coast to play with respect to these speakers versus just inviting them to speak to a larger audience?
Sure. Well, I think Bee Coast can help to facilitate the conversation for sure. So we could moderate. Those of us who are interested could moderate the presentation and the following discussion, the Q&A. And of course, I guess, since I'm willing to take, help take the lead on actually the logistical aspects as well, and collaborating with ESD, whoever else.
Got it. Thank you.
Christy?
Yeah, kind of on a similar note to what a couple other folks have said, maybe, and tell me, like, Lauren, if this is an appropriate next step, maybe if there's like a 1-pager document that just kind of summarizes like the objective for like what this session might look like, maybe some like pre-work or homework on like our part, either us being BCOS, but maybe there's like a cross-commission team of like someone from BCOS and someone from another working group and whomever else at the city level who would help to facilitate this. Because I feel like if we were to go to these folks and say, oh, we'd love for you to present, like, here's the homework we've already done or what we've already kind of planned for, that might kind of show that we're kind of like, getting into it a bit. And then maybe like just like kind of this 1-page proposal would also just like be something that we could kind of react to and like vote on formally. I'm just brainstorming.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Same here. I like the idea of having the proposal fleshed out so that we can kind of action it together. Definitely. I guess the other question, well, actually, I'll hold in case anyone else has any more comments, but I did have another question for the commission. Okay, hearing none. My other question was in regards to funding, because I do believe the folks who put it together, a friend of mine named Colin Miller, specifically of the Oakland Climate Action Coalition, I believe they were paid to do this. They were hired by the city. So I was hoping we could maybe secure funding for one or more of them to help present. That would be, in my opinion, that would be ideal. I wouldn't want to ask them to come for free, as volunteers.
Yeah, I think we could talk about the speaking fees, and I don't know what the difference is if they would be doing virtual or in person, but I think especially if it has a broader audience, that will be easier to justify in terms of covering that cost through our department budget.
That could be something that could go into a little like 1-page or 2, like estimated budget or cost or something.
Totally, makes sense. Najal, did you have something?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to unmute. Oh, I just posted a comment in the chat, but I'm pretty sure the CAPS Commission would be interested in attending as well.
What is the CAPS Commission?
It's a new commission on public safety. It's a public commission on public safety for members of our community to advise, because the current public advisory commission is all mayoral appointees, and the city council wanted to have a new commission made up of community members to advise them.
Okay, great, good to know. So maybe as a next step, I mean, I'm happy to take the lead on putting together this 1-pager. If anyone else would like to collaborate on that, on drafting that, I'm super open to that. And then perhaps at our next meeting, we can discuss it if folks want.
I'm open to helping work on the 1-pager. I should have time.
Great, much appreciated, Najla.
Yeah, I can help as well.
Okay, Jared. And then what was the other thing that I was going to say? It escapes me, but I think there was one more thing. Oh yes, I was wondering if any commissioners who are familiar with like leading equity voices in the community, whether that's in the private sector, the public sector, civil society, if folks would be so kind as to kind of email me like names of organizations, that would be really appreciated, because especially community organizations, because then we can sort of, we can put that into the one pager as like, these are potential, I guess stakeholders is the right term, or community voices that we'd like to invite to this presentation, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Because I mean, it's a racial equity impact assessment, so it'd be great to have, you know, voices from communities of color, et cetera, represented. Unless folks disagree with that approach, I don't know.
No, I think that would be important. Probably something that folks need to think about.
I asked for help on that because I'm not super familiar with those organizations and voices. So
I'm familiar with some, maybe not all of them, but I'm familiar with quite a few.
okay, great. Great. Well, I don't know, folks, did anyone else have any other comments on this idea, next steps? I think we have a clear plan here.
Yeah, I guess just as a last note, I really like that idea of incorporating other groups, and almost more so than even kind of like listing them as potential collaborators. Like if they're like on the front end, to really identify groups to work with, or community organizers who would be kind of more heavily involved in the planning. I know that's a big load too, because I personally am not as, other than having some friends at the People's Market, I really don't have a lot of community connections in that area. So an area of improvement for myself.
So you're suggesting to try and invite said voices to kind of partake in the planning.
Yeah,
process.
like a co-planning or organizing. I think
Yeah,
that'd be really great if the objective is around racial equity.
Totally agree. That's an excellent idea. So yeah, we'll definitely incorporate that into the proposal then. All right, well, hearing no other comments, thank you everybody for your input on this. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Colin, so much. That was great. Really excited for this event. Okay, so next, the homeowner education series. Lauren, I didn't know if you had any updates on that.
I wouldn't say necessarily. I think that I've been talking to some other internal city folks about creating more educational materials that could be disseminated in relation to our loan program. I didn't have a specific update on that, but I think it shouldn't completely fall off the agenda at this point. So I think next month I'll have more of an update as we build out our schedule for going to some of these homeowner association meetings over the course of the next 3 months.
Awesome. Did anyone else want to make a comment on that point before we move on? Alrighty, seeing no hands, we will move into working group updates. We're going to start off with the waste reduction working group. So if somebody has an update from that group, feel free to raise your hand.
Wait, sorry, Jarrett, did we move on from old business?
Yes, we did. Did you want?
Oh, I have an old business to talk about.
Okay. Feel
And
free
actually,
to.
wanted a quick note as well. Colin had a hand raised before we moved away from the last point.
Oh, sorry.
Give an opportunity for it.
Sorry about that. Colin, if you want to go, and then we'll go to your point, Najla.
Sure, I had just a quick question. What is the homeowner education series? Is it just about sustainability, sustainable practices, or?
Yeah, we had a representative from Hand and Utilities come and discuss potential involvement in creating more educational materials that could be disseminated to homeowners, and that could be, you know, just a one sheet on composting. It's something I think that there's a need for, because we don't have anything on hand that is succinct. But I don't think that much has occurred since that meeting in May. So just something to be aware of. I know you already have 2 active working groups and now planning this. So I'll just continue to keep you all updated if that continues.
Cool. Any other questions about the homeowners education series? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off. Didn't see the hand. Alrighty, so seeing none, Najla, if you want to go.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Oh, never mind. It won't let me. That's okay. I want to suggest that we follow up, that this commission follows up on the resolution on housing first, which was passed unanimously February 9th of this year. The 4 resolutions at the end ask the Common Council and the mayor to do several things by December 25th, 2021. And since it is now July, I would like us to ask both the council and the mayor's office for like a progress update and possibly monthly reports on how they're progressing on that resolution. What do you all think of that?
I think it's a great idea to follow up. And I'd be more than happy to attend, a city council meeting and help publicly put that on their radar. Yeah, I think that's a good idea to make sure they're still thinking about it, because it's, as Matt said, it's very easy with all of the stuff that's on their plate for something to kind of fall out of their notice if they're not thinking about it. And yeah,
well, exactly. I just don't want to get to December, and then think of it, you know what I mean? And so I thought, no, let's start getting up some progress reports now. I don't know the best way to do it though. Last time they didn't want us to talk about it at a city council meeting. So I don't know, Lauren, can you advise on what's the best way for us to get this message to the council and the mayor's office?
I think that'd be good to start a conversation with Matt. I know he's not here, but as our council representative of the commission, he would be able to advise on frequency. I'm sure he could include that perhaps in his monthly updates maybe, but with the mayor's office, can figure out whether they would like to just coordinate with the council and give one update instead of having 2.
Any other thoughts? Okay, do I need to make a motion? Should we vote on this?
I do not think we need to vote unless there's something tangible. So I don't think we would need to vote to move forward. It would just be somebody needs to probably reach out to Matt and figure out where to go from there. And then potentially at our next meeting, if we do want to, issue some sort of like statement or, I don't know exactly what that would entail, but that would probably be where we would need to vote. And Colin, did you have your hand raised? Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I'll follow up with you and Matt after the meeting on this then.
Perfect. Perfect. Alrighty. Does anybody else have any other old business? But then before we move on to working group updates. Alrighty. Seeing no hands raised, we will move to working group updates. So we will start with waste reduction. If somebody wants to speak on behalf of that group, please feel free.
Yeah, I can cover that one. And I'll just note that we've still not arranged time to meet between meetings. So there hasn't been any activity. And I was going to actually suggest or propose suspending the working group at the very least from having updates, if not from existing, until there's, I guess, an established capacity to have the working group functioning.
Okay. So that's a motion.
I guess I'll open up the idea, or yeah, I guess I'll make a motion to suspend the working group, and then if anybody wants to second it and discuss, we can go from there.
Yeah, so does anybody, do I hear a second?
I'll provide a sad second.
Alrighty, and then are there any objections?
Or discussion for that matter. Was there any discussion?
Yeah, so I'll object just for the sake of discussion, and then we can move into the vote after we feel like we've had enough discussion. So Joe, if you want to start by just kind of going over, why you feel that the committee should be suspended or the working group.
Yeah, just for the reason that, I like the idea of having the working group, but in the attempts that we've made to schedule so far, there hasn't been any activity generated from it or demonstration of interest. So I didn't see the interest in maintaining, a working group that doesn't have participating members. That's exclusively what it comes down to. I'm not opposed to having it going forward if there's interest in the future, and I would still be happy to lead the group if there are members interested in working on it. But as it stands now, I just don't see that occurring. So I figured it would be appropriate to not have updates on a working group that is essentially not working.
Yeah, I agree with Christy. It's a sad thing. It's like we're all stretched for time, and there's only so many things we can do. That's what it is.
Does anyone else have any thoughts? Alrighty. So yeah, I kind of share the sentiments of Alicia and Christy and Joe, or Joseph. You prefer Joseph, right?
I do. That'd be nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess we'll move into a vote on that. And I will go through when I don't even know. Do we have? Yeah, we should have quorum. Yeah. So I believe there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8, yeah. Alrighty, so when I call your name, please unmute and indicate how you wish to vote on suspending the waste reduction working group. Anna?
Yes.
Alrighty, I vote yes. Christy?
Yes.
Right. Alicia?
Yes.
Okay. Jonna?
Yes.
Okay. Colin?
Aye.
Alrighty. Najla?
Yes.
Okay. And Joseph?
Yes.
Alrighty. So it is unanimous. The waste reduction working group has been suspended until we have further discussion and decide to bring it back or rebrand it into something else. So then moving to our next point, the Just Transition Working Group. If somebody has an update from that group, feel free to speak.
All right, I guess I'll go. So we weren't able to meet between the last meeting and this one, but we have gotten, I think, sufficient responses to a scheduling poll. So I proposed in an email earlier today that we meet in about 2 weeks' time so that the public has sufficient notice. And in terms of a work update, we've completed part of an initial brainstorm, I would say. But we've got a little bit more work to do to sort of delegate ourselves tasks and really get the ball rolling on the pilot study, the Bloomington model pilot study, that is. So I think that does it. Unless Alicia, you had anything to add?
Nope, you covered it. We have a Google document. It has started.
All right, awesome. Does anybody else have anything to add around working groups before we move on? Alrighty, Colin, you have something?
Yeah, I just had one question, I guess, in terms of like confirming the quorum for the Just Transition Working Group. I'm wondering, like, I don't know, do we just want to discuss it maybe in our next working group meeting? Najla, Jana, and Alicia, or do we want to establish it here? I want to make sure that like the working group has, you know, folks who are committed, you know, to it and want to be part of that quorum essentially, because just in light of these, the new electronic meeting attendance rules.
What's the new rules for the working groups?
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren and Jarrett and Najla, but I think we need to establish like an actual membership of the working group in order to, like, people who are committed to being a part of the quorum, or that is part of the members who compose the quorum. Because if we don't, then we won't be able to meet quorum. Is that right?
Yeah, from what I understood from Director Crowley's presentation last week, it would begin by, you know, as soon as next month starts, there would need to be a set roster for the working group, and then from that working group, like this group, would need to hit quorum. So is that correct, Lauren?
Yeah, so really if you have fewer members, that makes it difficult. But I'm happy to work with you all to set up the meeting. If you want to use a conference room, for instance, for your working group meeting, you can figure it out next month. Or you mean on the 27th of this month?
Yeah, I suppose we could just discuss it then if we want. That's totally fine.
Yeah, so if it's this month, you can still do entirely online emergency orders until the end of July. If you're holding it next month, then we talk about hybrid.
So in terms of quorum for the working groups then, so they have to meet quorum for the full group or just out of the members who are part of the working group?
I will get clarification on that. I don't, I need to check the distinction in the actual order.
Cool.
Well, thanks, Lauren.
Alrighty. Does anyone else have any comments around working groups?
I'm
Alrighty.
committed to that working group.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So then, seeing no hands, we will then move to new business. So if anyone has any new business that they wish to bring to the commission, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized. Alrighty, going once, going twice. Alrighty, so seeing none, the next item on our agenda is adjourning. So if anyone has anything they want to say before we adjourn, please raise your hand. Okay, so seeing none of that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn until our meeting next month.
I move that we
A
adjourn.
second.
We have to hear the motion before a second.
Sorry if it didn't come through. I do move that we adjourn.
Cool. And then Najla seconds.
Yeah, I second.
Alrighty, cool. And I will send an email in a few weeks just around to get a sense of how folks are feeling around whether they will need to be virtual or they believe they can come in person to our next meeting. But until then, I wish you all well. Feel free to reach out by email if you have any questions, comments, concerns. But yeah, with that, the meeting's adjourned.